Hello, listeners, and welcome back to the Water Trio podcast. We're here, who can believe it's the 23rd of September, and I'm here with my lovely colleagues and friends, Kelly Surtees and Cassandra Tyndall. And we're here for the week of the equinox. I can't believe it's the equinox already. How are you both?
I'm good, and also Merlin is saying hello, apparently. I'm not sure what's going to go on here. Okay, she's on the windowsill. Yeah, I know, I can't believe we're at Libra season already because, there's 4 months left of the year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
3 months left.
Yeah, I know, right? I was sort of, thinking about the aspects of this week, was stuff that we were thinking about before 2019 even started. So to think that we're at this point, it's kind of like, wow, like where did that time go? It's definitely been, like every year has its qualities, but this one has just been so fast.
Yes.
So much going on.
And deep.
Yeah, for sure.
It's been all the things.
It's been all the things. Absolutely. There's just been so much happening.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it was the bipolar, kind of really deep and then kind of some highs and lows and everything in between. And I guess that makes for a, like the way the time feels is different when it's kind of all over the place.
I think we might have just lost you at the end there, Cass.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe it wasn't meant to be repeated, but I was just saying, like when we have like the time, it just sort of it is kind of like all over the place. Like with such juxtaposing energies, it can make the time feel less continuum kind of thing. It feels very different. So the qualities of the months and the qualities of the transits have been really quite stark in some respects. So this up and down kind of feeling. So yeah, at least this week we can start to feel like perhaps the light of the end of the tunnel is there for what a lot of 2019's been about.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's also, this energy has been highlighting different areas of our lives in quite a stark way. So the up and down that you're talking about, it's also been a to and fro between kind of firefighting in one area and then having the lovely, pleasant Jupiter in Sag stuff in another. It has just felt really full. But anyway, should we get into things? Who's up?
I'm
up
you're
first,
up
I think.
first, Leash, because you're going to talk about something happening on Monday. So it's September 23rd. Yeah.
Yes. So Monday afternoon here in Australia. I think that'll be Sunday, late Sunday evening in the
Monday
US, won't it?
morning. Monday, very early on Monday.
Oh, it is really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've got the sun moving into Libra, which marks the equinox. So this is the balance of the seasons. This is the midway point in the astrological year, and yay for Libra season is all I could say. I mean, we've already had that lovely sweetness of Venus and Mercury in Libra for about a week now. But it's just the sun kind of moving into that place. I mean, here in the Southern Hemisphere, it's spring, things are growing, things are opening up. But it's really that time where there's equal day and night and equal amounts of light. And I don't know, I mean, I guess in the Northern Hemisphere, it's that focus back into coming towards autumn, coming towards letting things go, but it's still that balance point when the sun is exactly on the equator shining in. And I find especially at Libra season, it just brings that balance and equality together so beautifully. It's like, okay, where do we need to find balance? Where do we need to find harmony? Where do we need to find equality? I always think about Libra like, that slogan in France, égalité, fraternité.
Yes.
And it's I always think about Libra like that. It's like, where do we need to find connection? Where do we need to find equality? Where do we need to find fairness with the people in our lives? And with Libra, with Venus in Libra as well, it kind of adds even more sweetness to this. It's like she's in the sign, she's giving all the joy, all the sweetness to it all. So it really is a chance to kind of find some harmony, find a place of balance, because this is the halfway point too between all the Cancer and all the Capricorn focus that we've had. So Yeah, there's like an energy of like looking back on June and July and thinking, what did I learn then? Where did I have to go deep within myself, and where can I bring that out now and come back out into the world, have the conversations and speak things out with people. So, yeah. What about you girls? Have you got thoughts about this?
Always so many thoughts. I don't know, Cass, you're like a Libra person, so do you want to like comment?
Yeah, I do have a little bit of Libra in my chart, just a touch. So, yeah, I mean, for me, it's like fifth house. And for me, naturally, I will associate the essence of Libra about joy, like joy, the Venus component too, and about how you can smooth the waters or facilitate that with other people, with social connections too. So, dare I say the word peacekeeping, but maybe not so much about that. But it's, how can we create win-win situations? And that's what I have this bugbear when people talk about Libra in pop astrology, and they might say, we're indecisive, this, that, and the other. And I don't believe that to be true. I think where the decision-making delay comes from is because in their mind, air, it's like, they're like, how can I keep everyone happy? How can I make this win-win outcomes for everybody? They're taking this broad survey of possibilities and coming up with a solution that is going to benefit the most, the majority. And that isn't something that happens instantaneously. So I feel that we do get a bit of a rough rap in that respect. And, when the sun comes into Libra, it is our cosmic reminder, if you like. How can we perhaps establish some win-win situations? And that might be for other people. And it might even be also for yourself. If you are being too compromising or too facilitating or too accommodating, where can I bring the balance of the scales back into my favor? So I was in the gym this morning, and it was no surprise that And Justice for All from Metallica came on, which has got the Lady Justice as a part of the, it's a whole album kind of about, Mother Earth and justice and what have you. So very apt for Libra season, and how can we rebalance those scales in our own life, obviously where the house of Libra falls for you. So that's how I see it. It's about, just balancing the scales back into your own favor, or maybe going, oh, I've been a little bit selfish or a little bit hard-headed here, or I've been, not thinking about other people's feelings, needs or wants. So I might just have to loosen the slack a little bit there and tighten it here. As you were saying, Alicia, about reflecting on, what you've been through in between this huge nodal journey between Capricorn and Cancer this year. Libra is that halfway point, and trying to find maybe how can I still honor my need of ambition, of achieving outer worldly goals, but still holding space for that nurturing or that protectiveness, or that the Cancer side of things. And that's what Libra is kind of, really, I think, shining light on during this particular transit, which it would be different to other years, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I think that's some beautiful points, because both of you have said, and I'm just gonna like throw my 2 cents in there as well. Libra season is halfway between the two solstices. So we have the Cancer solstice end of June and the Capricorn solstice at the end of December, or like December 20th, June 20th. So Libra is like that check-in, are we going up and then down? Have we been down and then we're coming up? It's just that change in direction, which is, such a nice orientation here. And I think the only thing I'd throw in, because you guys have used all the beautiful Libra words, about like reconnecting and finding balance and harmony, that, Libra is the Lady Justice. So she is so keen about where are things equal or fair, or where are things been imbalanced that I want to try to create some more fairness. And I think it's just that real shift of like we're coming out of Virgo season, which is really productive or can have this like, let's get things done, let's get organized. And that can be a little bit isolating. You know, the dry quality of Virgo is just, I've got to get these things done, and it's less inclined to engage with others or community or socialize. Whereas, you know, Libra being an air sign, it's definitely got that little moisture in there. It's much more inclined to reach out and reconnect or connect with others. So that's one of the shifts I think we will notice this week, is that desire to be with other people a little more often. Well, not just this week, but as we go into Libra season.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one thing I always like with the glyph of Libra is, yes, it can be the scales, but it is also can be a bridge. You know, it's that idea of bridging two things and uniting them and bringing them together with the water flowing underneath. So it's like, you know what, let water go under the bridge, and let's see how we can reconnect and bring things together.
So nice.
Yeah, so
yeah.
who's up next with theirs? I think it's you, Cass, isn't it, for Saturday?
Must be, yeah. Me again. Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess like what I really wanted to sort of, you know, sink our teeth into a little bit this week. And I've actually been doing a little bit of reflecting on this a fair amount actually over the last couple of weeks. And, you know, September has been or is a month that kind of is bookending a lot of the themes of 2019. I know we spoke about this a little bit last week because we had the Jupiter square Neptune of last week. But this is the third and final conjunction between Saturn and the South Node happening on the 28th. I think it technically falls on the 27th if you're listening from the Northern Hemisphere, and that's happening at 13 degrees of Capricorn. So we had the first conjunction back in very late April and early May, the second one in June/July, so part of that whole meat grinding experience. And now here we are in September, finally, you know, coming to a close of those things perhaps you've been churning through, or those ghosts from the past that have come back to haunt you in some ways, finally like bringing that bookend or that closure of completion of things that may have been like limiting your energy or draining you throughout 2019. So, you know, we've talked about this before. When the South Node is involved, it can be this like leaking out or this pouring out of energy, whereas Saturn is that container or that wall or that, you know, spac filler, as, you know, I'm sure you have something.
Spac filler, that's an excellent, that's like such a good Saturn thing.
I don't like, you know, when you I'm sure you got something similar in America. I don't know what you call it, but it's this thing when
like
you patch up the walls. Yeah, like if you put a little hole in the wall and you can just do a patch up and you know, a bit of spac filler, like you know, put it in your wrinkles, whatever. No,
people
you don't really do.
People talk about makeup like spac filler, like
filler,
you know, just filling all the lines.
Exactly, or your wall paint and stuff like that, you know. My Libra-ness is fully aware of all of those things I've been called in the past. But yeah, so it's almost like, you know, whatever has been leaking your energy, now this fusion of Saturn is like coming in with the spac filler and kind of going, okay, here's my boundary, no more. I'm going to seal this up. I'm going to, you know, deal with this problem, confront this thing from my past, confront this ghost, and like, you know, tick that box or cross that T or whatever it is you want to, you know, say about it. There's this feeling that, you know, if you can confront that thing or deal with that thing, then the Saturn and the South Node are kind of free of each other now. And for the first time this year, for the most part, they're moving in different directions. So it's this, you know, foreboding sense that something's finally over or something's finally finished. And that's pretty much, you know, my like little soundbite on that is just, like, you know, deal with it. Maybe go in like where angels might fear to tread, like confront the problem, confront the issue, you know, break that shite right open so you can seal it up, so you can heal it or process it or move forward from it, fill it up. So then you've got that, a smooth canvas to then paint on and rebuild and regrow. So I'm really looking forward to this particular aspect, and I've really had this sense and feeling of how it's playing out for me and what I might have been a little bit fearful of or afraid of, or something that might have been a bit of a place of nervousness or something I was a little bit fearful around or unsure of what to do. Now I don't feel that way anymore, and I can just kind of go in and deal and confront it and get to that other part of empowerment. And but sometimes, the Saturn, the South Node component, sometimes you do have to get, I think, a little bit to that ground zero or that bare bones. And that's almost like that spiritualizing influence. It's not, once all the fluff or the bubble is taken away, then it's like, okay, this is the Saturn South Node, like in Capricorn, like the hardest, the bottom, the most bottom, almost ground zero. And then you can kind of, okay, is this as low as it gets? Is this as hard as it gets? Well, if that's the case, then I can rebuild from that. So sometimes, like when we want to take, we're going through a challenging time, it's kind of like, well, what's the worst that's happened in my life so far? Have I survived that? Yeah, I did. Okay, I can do this too. So it can have this beautiful, like, reinforcing or this armor plated or Teflonish feeling if you're prepared to, go hard or go home with what this aspect is bringing up for you. How about you girls? What do you think about it?
This aspect is like, honestly, I think it's the aspect of the year. It's the Saturn on the South Node. And I just was reviewing the transcript of the keynote speech that I gave at NORWAC earlier this year, because one of the points I talked about is this aspect, and the image that I used to illustrate this point is like an Australian bush scene where the bushfires have just gone through. So it's like charred, trees, and all the shrub and the underbrush has been burned off, but there are these really solid, like eucalyptus tree trunks, like these massive trees that survive the fire. And, I've just shared a bit of this on the blog. So for anybody who wants to go into more detail, like the whole story's there. But basically, like, you look at this image and it looks a bit devastating because it's like a bushfire's been through. But weirdly, when I saw it, I saw hope, because I saw that the fire didn't destroy everything. And the whole South Node kind of theme has this purification quality. And I often think about the purifying fire when I think about purification. And then when I was looking into it more, because then I go on these research rabbit holes, I learned about, in the Australian bush, but in other bush around the world, there are plants that are called prophytic plants, where their seed pods are actually, like, the seeds are inside this resin seal that needs extreme heat to melt the resin so that the seeds can come out. And so there's been something this year around extreme circumstances have been perhaps required to release that seed of potential that's inside you or inside someone else. Not to say that horrible things always have a purpose, but to say that sometimes you only discover your true strength or what's really important when your back's on the wall, when you're in that fight or flight, do or die, like, right, everything's on the table, so you might as well be honest from this place. Do you know what I mean? So I think this weekend's peak with that last Saturn South Node is such an opportunity to clear the congestion, like all the shrubbery in the bush is just like congestion. So that might be like the stupid habits like watching Netflix on repeat or eating too many like naked cocoa bars for breakfast. I think I might have actually thrown my wrapper in the garbage today. But it's coming back. I think a lot of it is coming back to core. And I always think that with Saturn transits, it's hard and you've got to make choices. It's the necessity of making decisions. But when you're forced to choose, you get really honest with yourself about who or what really matters. And I think it's like that idea of the core tree trunks. What are the 3 or 4 core tree trunks in your life that you want to preserve or protect, above all? So
100%.
I think there's a lot of deeper, big things that are churning. And then Cass, I think you might have said this before, like in our pre-show chat, this process has been going on all year. So it's not new territory. So if this is making you a bit freaked out when you're listening to it, don't be, because this has been affecting you since, April, May, even if you just weren't aware of it. And this is a chance to kind of come to completion. Like you've already been working on it. So just go that final mile because next week, Saturn and the South Node do start to go in different directions. And then it's like, okay, we can let some regrowth come back now because we have clarified what those pillars or what those foundations kind of need to be.
Yeah, I love everything that both of you have said, and that analogy, Kel, of the bushfire. It's actually an endemic part of the Australian ecosystem. This is coming from your my environmental science background.
You have an environmental background. You should be telling us about the prophetic plants. I had to like go and research this.
Yeah, totally. But the thing is that also what happens is the ash of the undergrowth is what allows the seeds, because the soil in Australia is often very sandy and in places where bushfires happen a lot.
Nutrients in it.
Exactly. So the ash is where big trees, have the light to grow through because the undergrowth is gone. So for me, I keep thinking of the cold, harsh light of day of Saturn, how it can give that really cold yet clear focus on things. And for me, I've had to learn that some things I've had to let go of. Some of the undergrowth has had to be removed, but that's so these huge, big trees get a chance to get a chance to, I can't talk, get a chance to put roots down and have the nutrients that allow them to then grow. And there's a 7-year cycle of bushfires here in Australia. It's actually the best possible cycle.
Saturn.
I know, exactly. Isn't it amazing? So it's been like this for thousands of years. There are theories that because of the Indigenous Australians, how they used fire to hunt with, that this is potentially why it happened. I'm not so sure whether that's true. But another thing that I wanted to say here too is that here recently on the Sunshine Coast, we've had a lot of fires and some property has been destroyed. A lot of people's homes were threatened. And I think what that really brought through as well is that what is important. People were forced, thousands of people were evacuated. And I promise you, they weren't grabbing their latest gadget. They were grabbing photo albums. They were grabbing pets. They were grabbing things that were precious to them. And I feel like that's been what this South Node journey has been. It's shown us so much about what's real and what we can really value. And, earlier this week we did have Venus square the nodes, and I feel like this week has got that flavour of it. Okay, what is it about this Saturn South node that's taught us coming back to the core values of ourselves and letting everything else go, so then we can come from that place of being real, of being ourselves, and acting from our true moral value system within and what's important. So very serious discussion, of course.
Well, it's Saturn and the South Node. I could totally segue into something completely different for our final aspect for this week, which is that Kel. It is, I know, and the Saturn South Node, so this is another one of those weeks where all the astro and energy, not all of it, but most of it is happening on the weekend. So Saturn South Node Saturday at 13 Capricorn, Sunday in Australia. But we also have the new moon in Libra coming up on Saturday. I think it's Sunday in Australia, Saturday in Canada and the States.
Yeah. The Saturn South Node Saturday in Australia. It was 4:21 p.m. I've got.
Okay.
Anyway, Saturday afternoon. And then the new moon is Sunday morning, I think. 4:21 a.m.
Now my Virgo is like, what?
Unless I've written my things down wrong.
Let me double check. Saturn, which is the Australia? I've got like so many time zones.
Yeah, it's 4:26 a.m. Sunday the 29th.
Oh, it is.
And the day before in the other part of the planet.
On the planet. So the new moon in Libra. Now, it's a new moon, so it's like a fresh cosmic reset, start thinking about the 4 weeks ahead. But this is like one of the nicest new moons all year because the ruling planet of the Libra new moon is Venus, and Venus is in this very harmonious sextile aspect to Jupiter from 17 Libra to 17 Sag, also on the weekend. And I think the combination of the two, it's not often that there's an aspect in the sky that can point towards happiness, but Venus and Jupiter together ruling a new moon, Venus ruling the new moon. I'm not saying this weekend is going to be perfect, but I do think one component of this weekend is that you get some clarity about a person or a project or a passion or a pathway that is a really fulfilling, inspiring, meaningful thing for you. And, you know, you may reorient your whole life around it right away, or you may just be like, I've got that seed or that kernel, that gem of an idea, and I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind and work towards it. So that transition, I think, Cass, you might have said this on the show, on the pre-show chat, about wrapping up old things so that you can start something new. This weekend is very much like closure with Saturn South node, and then almost fairly quickly pivoting on to the new opportunities and the new directions with the new moon, which is just really enhanced, with that Venus-Jupiter combo. So, it's quite the weekend.
For sure. Which is kind of like, in a nutshell, like in a 48-hour space of time, we've kind of got the whole of 2019 happening.
That's a really good point. That's exactly it.
So so I would love to hear, well, we'd all love to hear about like what's happening this weekend, how these aspects are playing out for you, what you can what are you looking forward to, like what are you wanting to close the book on, like sign that off, project done. And of course, the next 3 months of the year, which is all we've got, is, well, basically we've got to the 3rd of December to really just go gung-ho for the Jupiter and Sag stuff. Like now we are finally sort of free of the Capricorn side of things for a bit. Well, the pressure's off, and now it's kind of like go hard or go home on those big goals. And so funny, only on Instagram the other day, somebody who I've been following like for 10 years online, who happens to be a Sagittarian, he posted this book, which now I really want to order. And it was pretty much like about those what if questions, which I wrote a post on, the Jupiter and Sag, what if you actually took that chance or that shot? What could you choose? What would you achieve, like when you take away all the Saturnian fear? So I feel that, this energy, people are starting to feel it more. It's like this now or never type of vibe around, I've got to do this thing, or I want to take that chance. And, I've found myself saying to so many people lately, and I'm a bit of I have to, put a caveat in place that I'm a bit like this anyway, but back yourself, like if you don't look after yourself, nobody else is going to, that's kind of, ultimately. So go for it, Jupiter.
Yes.
Yeah. I also haven't seen a Jupiter perfection, but that's okay.
That's just extra Jupiter.
Just a bit extra with my flowers in the background.
Yeah.
And it just feels like with the Libran energy as well, what we're bringing in is potential collaboration with others, or asking others to give us feedback on what we're doing well and how we can help others and where we can connect with others to make all of this happen. So I feel like there is definitely that, instead of being all internal and kind of stuck in like many of us have been this year, it's a chance to connect outwards and go, right, who's here? Who can help me? Who can offer advice? Who can offer wisdom? Like that beautiful Jupiter piece. So, yeah.
Yeah,
awesome.
It's honestly that Venus-Jupiter, it's one of my, there's a couple of periods in 2019 where Venus is in really good condition and Jupiter is in really good condition. This is our second last period. We talked about that with the cosmic honey of Venus in Libra, but this is like the peak of the Venus in Libra period because there's that direct aspect. It's like, such a good... So that the energy of collaboration, of teamwork, of alliances that are meaningful or lucrative or forward thinking. Yeah,
inspiring.
There's some really juicy good stuff. It's such a week of contrast. And Cass, oh my God, I just have to repeat what you said, where you were like, this is 2019 in a 48-hour window, basically.
Pretty much.
This weekend.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, gals, what have you got going on this week?
Well, speaking of learning and wisdom and growing and collaboration, I'm actually attending Dimitra George's retreat for some professional development research of my own. So I will be just soaking in all that goodness from one of the absolute living legends in our field. What do each of you have going on?
Cass?
Myself, well, this week I'm doing my aversion webinar. So that happens on Thursday morning in Australia, which will be Wednesday evening in the US and Canada. So I've actually had a lot of signups for it. So if you do happen to be at Demetra's webinar, Demetra's workshop, you can still sign up for it and get all the gear later. So I'm really looking forward to delivering that. It's one of my favorite kind of juicy astro topics. So yeah, all the details are on the events tab on my website, cassandratindall.com/events. What about you, Alicia?
Cool.
What's up?
Well, I will be running a New Moon in Libra workshop
nice.
too.
Of course. Are you doing this one online?
Online.
Okay.
Online.
Yes.
So I've already had a few sign-ups for that too. So if you want to know more about Saturday's new moon or Sunday morning's new moon in Libra, join me. So it'll be Saturday night in Australia. It is a bit of a rude time for the US. But again, like Cass's, you can download it at a later time and listen to it. So I'll be talking about all the beauty of this new moon in Libra, the possibilities of it, and also going through individual charts, which houses it'll be in and ways that you can use the energy of it. And, potential little ritual that you could try as well to make the most of this energy. So you can sign up on my website, aliciayusuf.com, and the link will be in the show notes as well for this episode. So thanks, gals.
Excellent.
Nice week
Cool.
ahead.
Have such a wonderful time in Bend, Kel.
Yes.
Thank you.
So
Enjoy.
Insanely happy for you and jealous at the same time.
I know. I was thinking before, Cass, when you were talking about the whole back yourself, do the thing. It feels really big for me. I'm in a moon perfection year, but in my solar return chart, the moon and Jupiter were together in Sag. And I've almost been, how you have you say yes month in your birthday month, Cass?
I do have a yes month, yeah.
A yes month. I feel like this is a bit of a yes year for me because that's a very, we'll say Jupiter says yes. And I usually attend events typically when I'm presenting and, you kind of justify the time and the cost and everything. And this time I was like, I just want to go. I just want to learn some stuff. I want to observe how something like this is run. I'm kind of going for a couple of different reasons. But also just to, have time with Demetra, who is just amazing, and I'm really enjoying her book. So it just feels like something special that I wouldn't normally do, that I've decided to just take the time, invest the money in, and it feels very Jupiter. This, I kind of still can't believe I'm doing it, basically.
Oh, I'm just, as I said, I'll be there with you in spirit. Bend is a beautiful, beautiful place. Yeah. And I really look forward to hearing what you think of it. So
yes, I will report back. We're going to probably have recorded a couple of our October episodes in advance, but there'll be an episode in October, which we record after I'm back.
We'll debrief,
We'll debrief,
yeah.
It'll be amazing.
All right.
Thanks, ladies. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
See you later. Bye.